Welcome. This is a big week in reviews. There is a lot of stuff to talk about. I am Spartacris, and I'm here for the Generational Gaming and Entertainment Network. This is the Theater Room. I think we're on episode 7. We had the Wandavision finale this week, and I have a good amount of thoughts that I've written down on that one. I also watched another surprise movie that I thought was pretty fun, and I watched the next Bond film, which I will get into all that. Plus, my wife made another fantastic cinema suite. Excuse me. So I'm not going to waste any time. Like and subscribe on YouTube, on Twitch. Join the group, Generational Gaming Entertainment. I'm coming out with content like this every Tuesday and Sunday. Tuesdays is always my reviews. Sundays is just kind of keeping everybody up to date on some of the what I think are the most important updates and announcements throughout the week. And then ScytheX, TheCaptain, One Shot, they're streaming games all week long. We're coming up with a website and an official schedule, so keep your eyes out, keep your eyes peeled for all that stuff. But let's just kind of get right into it. So I'm going to start with WandaVision. Full spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen the episode. I'm not going to purposely tell you everything that happens, but I'm also not going to not mention things. So if you haven't watched it, if you haven't watched the show, it's 100% worth watching. I will say, just to start off with what is probably an unpopular opinion, that I felt like the show really was firing on all cylinders for probably the first 7 episodes, and then it didn't really stick the landing for me. The last 3 episodes were a little disappointing. They all felt a little slow. I kind of think that maybe because as Marvel heads, we were so excited to finally get some Marvel stuff back on TV and on the movies and what have you, that we may have gone a little overboard with the mystery hunting and the Easter egg hunting. That's generally Marvel's fault and Kevin Feige's fault, because they've pretty much groomed us to do that. But, I think maybe we all were looking for stuff that really wasn't ever going to be there, or we're almost jumping the gun. We need to let them do their thing, and we need to let them kind of give us the information. So like I said, I thought the season as a whole was really good. It's definitely a phenomenal start to what Marvel is going to be offering us on Disney Plus. I'm very interested to see how all this stuff is going to tie into the movies, but I will say that one of my major issues, is that I felt like the last 2 episodes of this series were more about setup and hints for Doctor Strange 2 than they were about finishing the show the right way. Especially this finale. It had some of its big moments. It had the white vision versus the colored vision, I guess. Excuse my language. Kind of battle. It had some good visual effects. It had Wanda versus Agnes or Agatha, which looked great. It definitely, you could tell it's got a movie kind of budget for a TV show. So there was no lacking in that department. But a lot of the characters, like Monica, almost felt like an afterthought in the last 2 episodes when she was such a big player throughout the season. Jimmy Woo felt like an afterthought. Same thing with Darcy. She appeared. It almost seemed like maybe she wasn't available to film any of her stuff, so they pulled her in at the last second for a reshoot, had her pop up and drive her van into Hayward's van. One quick line, she filled her quota, she's done for the day. The way it was even shot, you don't see her driving the van, you just see a close-up of her in the van, says her lines, then it cuts away. That's kind of like telltale TV tricks and movie tricks. It just seemed like a lot of the characters that were major parts of the show ended up kind of just falling by the wayside. Jimmy had a name drop, so I'm assuming that's going to come back in some way. One thing I'm always telling my friends when they question certain things is that Marvel, as far as we know, does things on purpose. Thanks Rob Zombie for jumping into the chat. Pancakes! I hope everyone understands where that's coming from. If you don't, that's going to be a treasure hunt for you guys, an Easter egg. Go find out where that saying is from, and let me know in a future show. So I just don't think that I don't think the show was really about ending, or the finale was really about ending Wanda's story or Wanda's show. It was more about putting her in a place and moving her into a place for Doctor Strange 2, which we all know is where she's going to be appearing next. And just to kind of play a little 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon in a sense, the reason why I'm saying that is that we got confirmation in this episode that the book that Agatha had in her basement was the Darkhold, which I don't believe it's the same book from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for anyone who's watched that show. It looks like the MCU at this point is kind of ignoring those shows and just kind of forging ahead with their own stuff. But this was the book that Agatha had in her basement. This is the one that she brought up to Wanda in this episode. And this is the book that you see Wanda reading at the end of the episode. So the Darkhold is all about chaos magic, and the Darkhold was created in the Dark Dimension. So for anyone who just keeps following along with all these Marvel movies, the Dark Dimension looks like this. And that is where Dormammu, who was the bad guy for Doctor Strange 1, came from. This is also the dimension that the older Ancient One she was harnessing the Dark Dimension's power to make herself stronger, to keep her alive longer. So if chaos magic comes from the Dark Dimension, then that's a very easy segue into connecting Wanda with Doctor Strange. We saw her studying the Darkhold at the end of the season in one of the after credit scenes. This was the one after all the credits actually rolled, they showed this. And just as another connection to Doctor Strange, Wanda was using astral projection, which was basically the same technique Doctor Strange used to essentially continue to learn and read about magic even while his physical body was sleeping. He also had a pretty good fight with Scott Adkins in the astral plane, where he essentially murdered him by getting an EKG to the face. So that it's just another connection. It just seemed like the whole finale was really a connection to get Wanda into a place where Doctor Strange would either have to interfere, or maybe she would seek him out for some more advice or help. And even another connection that I'm just thinking now off the top of my head is Agatha mentioned that Wanda, because she's the prophesized Scarlet Witch in the MCU, she's destined to be stronger than the Sorcerer Supreme. And if I remember correctly, in Avengers Infinity War, Doctor Strange mentions that he's the Sorcerer Supreme for Earth. So maybe they're going to clash, they're going to fight. It's a classic comic book thing where, the heroes meet up and they got to fight before they can actually work together. So, I guess we can look forward to a pretty decent magic battle between Doctor Strange and Wanda. He's obviously more experienced than she is, but clearly after this show, we all know now that she's actually a lot more powerful than even she knows. So that's all going to kind of tie into Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is called the Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange 2. And at the very, very end of the show, the last thing we hear Wanda hear is the voices of her children calling out for help. So that to me is a hint that they didn't just disappear with the Hex, that they do still exist and they're in another reality somewhere, or maybe stuck between realities. And that's going to be Wanda's mission in Doctor Strange 2, is to go find her kids, bring them back, probably try and find Vision, or he'll be involved in some way. Speaking of Vision, how awesome does White Vision look? Let me find the picture for him. I'm pretty sure I put it in here. Where the heck is it? There it is. I mean, how cool is that? He gives me a very Powder vibe, for anyone who's seen the movie Powder. It's an old movie. I'm actually a big fan of the blue crystal in the forehead rather than the yellow. But so again, my take on what happened with him is that this now, what we're looking at is Vision going forward. This is the current Vision. He's got all the same personality traits and memories now of the Vision we knew. But I guess he's on the run. I'm not really sure why he didn't stay with Wanda after he got all his memories back, especially knowing that the other Vision could not exist outside the Hex. It kind of seemed like he just disappeared. Again, it felt like it was more set up for something happening in the future and not necessarily a well thought out finale for this show. And I don't want to sound like I'm ragging on the show. I think it was an excellent show from beginning to end, but I don't feel like if all the shows are going to end on major not cliffhangers, because it's fine for shows to end on cliffhangers, but if they're going to pose these big questions and we're always going to have to wait for the movie to find out what happens, that's going to get tiring pretty fast. We need the shows. The good thing about all the Marvel movies so far is that they all told self-contained stories about the hero of the movie. By the end of the movie, you always felt like you had a resolution for what was going on at that moment, and we were waiting for the future movies just to see how whatever happened in the current movie affects their attitudes or their decisions going forward. So the shows need to follow the same thing. They need to stick to a plan. They need to tell a cohesive story. They need to end the story, and then you can leave little breadcrumbs for what comes next. But I feel like this show left too many things that were set up and not answered. Excuse me. A couple of other things I wanted to mention besides how awesome Vision looked is, let's see, let me get the image out of the way. How cool did Wanda's costume look? I mean, this is the official Scarlet Witch costume of the MCU, and in my opinion, it's freaking awesome. It's a good interpretation of her costume from the comics, which we basically saw as a Halloween costume, and I think it was episode 4 or 5. Maybe 5 or 6. I love the way it looks. Elizabeth Olsen looks good in it, so good for her. But it looks, it kind of looks to me like what an MCU magic hero would wear. So I'm glad that the build up for it was worth it, and even the build up for her name. They didn't have to ever really call her Scarlet Witch. We all know that that's who she was. But the fact that they've kind of taken it from the comics, it's more of like a mantle that gets passed down from one person to another, and they've made it more of like a legend. Kind of gives it a lot more weight, and I'm a fan of that. So I was good with that one. But now that's a positive. On a negative note, something else I didn't like about the show was this final battle. It started off fine. I like that Agatha was kind of toying with her and more trying to just get her to use her powers so she can absorb them. I felt like, Wanda's little trick of shooting her spells and hitting the walls of the hex so she could put up her runes. I don't know. I guess it was supposed to be a big moment to show that she's learning and she's paying attention. It just kind of came for me, it kind of came out of nowhere when that was the reveal that that's what she was doing. It kind of left me with some more questions. Like, if Agatha couldn't use her magic powers anymore, how was she able to continue floating? There was no mention of that. If she couldn't use her magic powers anymore, how was she absorbing Wanda's power? Because isn't that a magic power she has? So she shouldn't be able to absorb anything and known right away that something was not right. So that was a little weird. And before that reveal, I thought they were going the whole Hulk route, where it was, why, you want my power, take it all, and then they can't handle it. Rob Zombie says, why wouldn't White Vision just pull the Hex Vision out of the Hex, poof, fight over in seconds? That's actually a really good point. But I guess to answer your question, in my mind, he would have tried, and regular old or Hex Vision would have just phased his way through and kept himself in the Hex. So I guess that's an easy answer. You got to come a little harder with a harder question than that. I did like, there's a little callback. I felt like it was a callback. Speaking of the Vision versus Vision fight, where White Vision tried to grab the crystal or the stone out of Hex Vision's head. And instead of like with Thanos, he just kind of lets him grab it. This time, Hex Vision just phased through the hand. I guess that's another disappointment too. I don't want to go back to the Vision versus Vision stuff, but now that Rob Zombie mentions it, I was disappointed in that fight. I mean, they had their little moments where they did their little stares at each other and they were hitting with the lasers, but like, these are two powerful beings, and like, no one was getting thrown around. There wasn't really a lot of like damage. I understand, like, we live in a world where if a superhero smashes a building, everyone gets upset, but I mean, these guys are superheroes, man. I mean, they should be doing some damage. A couple of broken roofs here and there. That doesn't really do it for me. I want to see some real fights. It just felt like they were kind of spinning around each other. You know what it felt like to me? It felt like the last fight in the Matrix trilogy. Neo versus Agent Smith in the air, flying around, floaty. It kind of felt like that to me, but this time it was during the day, and honestly, it just looked better. But anyway, going back to the final battle with Wanda and Agatha, it just wasn't I don't know. It didn't do it for me. I do like that, Marvel clearly is learning from their villain mistakes of the past, and they didn't kill off Agatha. The fact that Wanda specifically just left her in Westview is 100% means she's coming back. Catherine Hahn did do a great job, and there's no reason why they wouldn't bring her back. Her whole talk of wanting to take the power from people who weren't worthy of the magic power, to me, sounded a lot like Mordo, or whatever his name is, from Doctor Strange 1. And we know he's going to be in Doctor Strange 2, played by Chadwick E. Ejiofor, I think his name is. I'm probably not saying it right, or even saying the wrong name, but that's a big character that they left open-ended, and for him to team up with Agatha to steal the power of people who are using magic and they don't deserve it, that's a kind of a cool setup. So, I'm looking forward to that. And then really the last thing that stood out to me, this is how much of a letdown the show is, the finale was, in my opinion, because I don't have a ton more to talk about, is, did anyone get the Incredibles vibes from this little shot in the episode when the family got together? I don't know if that was done intentionally because they're both Disney properties, but it just it felt like to me it was done on purpose. So, I just wanted to point that out. There's not really much else. I mean, so we talked about the kids. I do think that the episode really set up Dormammu to be maybe a big bad or a bigger part of Phase 4, not so much Mephisto, or maybe Dormammu is being used as a pawn in Mephisto's plan. But everyone was so set on the Mephisto reveal, and that clearly that wasn't it. I did also think, just speaking of Monica again, her big moment where she stepped in front of the bullets to protect the kids. Like when it happened, I thought it was gonna be some cool thing, and then they showed it, and I literally was just like, oh, all right, ready to move on. Wasn't I don't know. I feel like they really tried to build up these moments, and they just didn't land. It's the first MCU show, so I guess there's growing pains. But I'm sure I'm being even more harsh on the show because it was over a year without anything Marvel. So I want everything. We do know that there's a lot more Marvel content coming, and specifically with Wanda and her story. So, there's still a lot that we're going to find out, a lot that we're going to learn, a lot moving forward. And as I said on Sunday, March 19th, is Falcon and the Winter Soldier is starting. So we don't have a giant break, and we're going right into another Marvel show. And it looks like it's going to be a lot more action-packed. I'm going to do a deep dive specifically on Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Keep an eye out for it in the next day or two. Essentially, what I'm going to do for anyone who really doesn't have the energy or the time to read all the comics and do the research, I'm going to put together some quick videos. I'll call it MCU Phase 4 Prep. And Episode 1 or Part 1 will be all about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Basically tell you who the players are, give you their quick history in the MCU, any new people that are going to be introduced. I'll kind of give you a rundown on what we maybe can expect from them and how they can tie into the future shows. So besides WandaVision, I watched another movie. I mentioned on Sunday that my brother brought up a movie to me that kind of is right up my alley, right up a lot of your alleys if you're even listening to me. We're all gamers. We all like action movies. And if that's the case, then we all pretty much should like Frank Grillo, who was in the Purge 2 and 3 movies. He was actually Crossbones in the Marvel Universe. And they just released a movie on Hulu of his called Boss Level. This movie takes the whole Groundhog Day concept and essentially says, what if you wake up every single morning, and from the moment you wake up to the moment the day is over for you, you're basically being hunted down by assassins. And what I liked about this movie, number one, I like Frank Grillo. I think he's a good actor. He's a good action star. He has similar to John Bernthal, that intense quality. Working with him and doing a fight scene with him, he's probably scaring you a little bit with how hard he's throwing these punches. Rob Zombie says probably Nacho Libre. Nacho Libre is a great movie. All right. You got to stop talking shit about Nacho Libre. Nacho Libre is an excellent movie, and it's one of Jack Black's all-time best. I'm not talking to you no more. You're crazy. Anyway, for Boss Level, Literally we come into the movie with right in the middle of the main characters, Frank Grillo's character's ordeal with living day after day. So by the time when the movie begins, he already knows what's going to happen, and we get a great intro where he's just kind of nonchalantly just going through a fight scene. He's got to show off his 6-pack abs. I didn't even know he was that ripped. And then it kind of goes right into the action, right into the story. And it's just speaking of the story, it's not the most amazingly well thought out story. It was, there were no giant twists. At one point they show Mel Gibson and he's the bad guy. That's just what it is. There's no hidden meaning behind anything. But you know what? The movie doesn't take itself too seriously. It's a fun movie. They're creative with the kills. They're creative with a lot of the action scenes and how they come back into play later in the movie. And to me, I was kind of smiling the entire time, beginning to end. I was into it. I loved everything I saw. It's on Hulu. If you have Hulu, it's just included with the regular Hulu service. You should watch it. It's a fun movie. It wasn't too long, an hour and 40 minutes. A nice little distraction from everyday life. And I promise you, it was just a coincidence that it was another Mel Gibson movie. I'm not looking for his movies. I'm not looking for him to make some giant, some giant comeback. Mel Gibson is Mel Gibson. We all know he's a piece of shit, but the man can act and he can play a villain pretty good. So, I think we should, he's not in it that much, to be perfectly honest. So, don't avoid the movie because he's in it. Don't even bother. Let's see. After Boss Level, I did finally watch You Only Live Twice, which was the next James Bond movie. Now, I do want to... How do I put this nicely? I felt like the movies were getting better and better until Goldfinger. After Goldfinger, if I'm being honest, they're not that fantastic. I feel like they got a little too campy. They got a little too what's the word? Like, they lean too much into the gadgets and into the I don't know, like, it's just, oh, what's up, Captain? Mel Gibson, he's a POS, but you can't deny he's a stud, especially that beard, man. His beard is just, it makes me jealous, honestly. I got a little bit of white here. He's got the full thing going. He knows how to act, all right? He's an asshole, but he knows how to act. But anyways, the Bond movies just, I think I'm spoiled from movies like Boss Level. The action is so well done. The special effects are so good. And then I'm going back to watch these Bond movies that were made in the 60s and 70s. And, like, the acting is just bad. It's just bad. I mean, you can see by the trailer that I'm playing here, the zoom-ins, and I wish I could put on the volume for you. It's just garbage. Bond never aims down sight. I mean, I don't even play Call of Duty, and I know you need to aim down sight. Come on, man. Captain, Spectre, Skyfall, and Casino Royale. I will talk about those. I've only actually seen Casino Royale. I haven't seen the other ones yet, so I'm going to catch up. But I got to do it in order. So right now, I was on You Only Live Twice. Thankfully, Sean Connery is not Bond in the next one. It's George Lazenby. You could just tell Sean Connery at this point was just kind of going through the motions. He definitely in this movie is a little is way more sexist than he has been. And the one thing that I thought was funny, but I guess, hats off to the movie for this. There's a scene where he's kind of infiltrating a group of ninjas, or he's working with a group of ninjas, and they have to make him look Japanese, they say. So their version of that is just to put a wig on him or comb his hair down, and then that's really it. They just kind of put a kimono on him, the wig, and they go, boom, there you go, you're Japanese. But, so it was a little silly in the movie, but good for them for not going full-blown racist and, like, doing the slanted eyes or anything like that. Rob Zombie, is that true? The best Call of Duty players hip fire shots all day long? I aim down sight. I'm terrible at Call of Duty, though, so I guess I'm not the expert at this. But I don't think... I'm pretty sure when I watch the videos, everyone's firing down sight. I don't think anyone's shooting from the hip. But I'm talking like Bond is literally like he's got his hand down here. He like looks out in the distance and just kind of leans in and just takes a shot, and he's freaking bullseyeing people in the chest. It's not. I like my Bourne movies, my current action movies where they're all going down sight. I mean, The one thing that was cool in this one was, he lights a cigarette, one of the gadgets, and then he somehow hits a button and it just friggin' explodes in someone's face. Uh oh. All right, guys, keep it nice here, okay? We're all gamers here. I will say that the best part of this movie was finally seeing the inspiration for Dr. Evil. Blofeld didn't really disappoint. I did feel like when he first reveals himself to Bond, there's like a funny moment where he like leans behind his henchman and the henchman just doesn't move, and then you just see him like reach his hand out, just push the guy over. Like it looked to me like it was somebody who's basically like, you're blocking me, my shot, man, get out of the way. But when he first meets Blofeld, when they first come face to face and they talk, it feels so intense and such a big moment because they've been talking about Spectre for every movie up to then. And then within seconds, Blofeld just fucks it up. He starts talking like, I see why Dr. Evil was an imbecile. That's basically how Blofeld is. He's walking around with his freaking cat. He's petting it like crazy. There's a scene where he gives his henchman a key, and he specifically in front of Bond says to the henchman, "This key is for the bomb," and he points right at the bomb and then looks out in the distance. Like, it's so poorly acted, and he's not intimidating. He's about 6 feet shorter than Bond. The whole premise of the movie was decent. It was one of the better world-ending stories out of the Bond movies I've seen so far. But I'm glad it's kind of over. I don't think. Let's see. There's really not much else to say. I think I went through everything I want to talk about with the Bond movies. I will kind of keep going though, because I'm looking forward to getting to, like you mentioned, Captain, the Spectre and the Skyfalls, and some of the new stuff with Daniel Craig. They're a lot more gritty and a lot more exciting. I suck at GoldenEye. I'm terrible at GoldenEye. Come on. Rob Zombie, just as a side story, I was playing GoldenEye with him and his son, and he was able to beat us both when we were going 2-on-1, and we didn't get one kill on him. That's how bad I am. Although, in my defense, you can't control the up or down aiming in GoldenEye, so it's garbage. I liked GoldenEye back in the day, but it's not that great anymore, if I'm being honest. All right, and then the last thing, which you guys briefly saw before I hid the video, is the Cinema Suite of the Week. Hold on, let me turn this trailer off here. You only live twice. You're gone. This is the Cinema Suite of the Week. My wife made fried Oreos. Fantastic. We got Oreo thins, because we're trying to watch our figure. So, we decided to go with the thin ones. She basically took, it's just pancake mix, regular, add water pancake mix, dip the Oreos, you fry those sumbitches, and you enjoy those sumbitches. They were fantastic. They were delicious, very easy to make. You can see in the video here, I was having fun while my wife did all the work. When it comes to the kitchen, that's basically how it goes. And we got to have a snack. Actually, we have some more for tonight. So at the end of the Ranger game, I'm going to go ahead and enjoy those. And so that's it for this week. I'm going to be watching Coming to America 2. I did not get a chance to watch it this weekend, so I'm going to watch it, and I'll probably do a quick little reaction to it at some point this week, and then give a full-blown review later. A skinny taste recipe. I guess that's where the thin Oreos came from, because it's a skinny taste recipe. But they were fantastic. So I'll be watching Coming to America 2. I'll talk about that. I will be watching the next Bond movie, which is, Lazenby's in it. I can't remember the name of the movie now, but I have a full list that I'm going to kind of just check it off. And I will be back on Sunday at around 1:30 with any updates. The one update that I'm already excited about that I'll just kind of spoil for you now, God of War. There's a comic book coming out that is going to give us the story between God of War 3 and the reboot of God of War. It'll essentially tell us what happened to Kratos, where he went after he destroyed all the gods of Olympus, how he ended up dealing with the Norse gods, meeting Freya, and having his son Loki, I'm going to call him. I'm excited for that. That's actually supposed to be coming out in the next month. Don't forget also, everybody, Justice League Snyder Cut is coming out in like a week. So that's going to be a big one. It's 4 hours long. So you got to put some time aside for that one. But fingers crossed that it's as good as I want it to be. I've already made it pretty clear that it's not. I don't think it's gonna be that good, but I'm still excited for it. That's in a week, and then Falcon and Winter Soldier is March 19th. So we're kind of jumping right into some big things coming out. 2021 is going to be a big year for the movies, and I'm gonna be here for the entire thing. So That's it for today, guys. If you like this kind of stuff, like and subscribe. I will be posting the recap on YouTube later tonight or tomorrow. Please leave some comments on any of the videos. Let me know if there's a future movie maybe you want me to watch or something that you recommend, and I'll get to it in a future video. Thanks.